Hey guys, I'm Kent and welcome back to my channel. So I've got the Ruckus on the lift for the first time in a long time. I've been riding this bike around town quite a bit. It's probably the motorcycle that I ride the most, particularly around town, and it gets the most looks because people don't know what it is, and for a scooter, it's pretty damn quick. Anyway, I really love the way that this bike looks, and there's very few things that I have left to modify on it. But today I'm going to install a new light bracket system. So I've got the stock headlight bracket and the stock headlights. The bracket, I've made some modifications. I took off the ears for the turn signals up here. I have these cute little Rizoma lights for turn signals on the side. And I think I cut a couple of other pieces off to make it look a little bit cleaner. I also have this 2-inch lowering kit to bring it down a little bit closer to the tire. So it's a cool looking solution, but today I'm going to install something much cooler from MNNTHBX. It's this custom aluminum cage and the XKGLOW lights that fit perfectly inside this cage. So I have them already mounted in and I'll show you how they install, but it's pretty simple. The cage is cut out to perfectly have these pieces set inside and then be supported by these outer brackets. The machining of this cage is also insane. Anyway, again, I will show in just a second how to install these lights. But the question that I have as far as how I mount this, there's two ways, or for me, there's two ways. The standard way is to mount this flush against the battery box, and then the wires run behind this so that you won't see almost any of the wires, and it'll go straight into the battery box through a little hole that you'll cut. I am thinking though of keeping my lowering kit on instead, and then just running the wires through the side like I have here into the opening on the side of the battery box. So let's first show how to get the lights into the cage, and then let's try to mock up the different configurations, either the standard way or slightly lowered, and then get it all put together. Okay, so the first step in installation is getting the XK lights into the MNNTHBX aluminum cage. And this cage and the machining on it is absolutely gorgeous. The anodized finishing, I chose black. It also comes in a raw aluminum color. Came out very, very nicely. So the installation to get the light in is very simple. There's just these Allen bolts that go around the edge using a M3 Allen key. You back them out. As you back out the bolts, there's a little plastic spacer in between, so make sure you're not losing these. This is the little spacer and bolt. So remove all of those first. So with the top cover off, then you can see here in the aluminum bracket, there's actually these 4 indentations that perfectly line up with the notches on the back of the XK light. So the orientation is to have this little .SAE logo at the top, and you can see that it notches in there pretty well. And then the cage, or this ring, goes on top, lining up the holes, using the spacers, and getting all of the screws back in. Since my bike buzzes quite a bit, I'm going to use some blue Loctite to make sure that these stay in. If you've got a GY6 engine, I imagine your bike buzzes quite a bit, and I'd similarly recommend using some blue Loctite. On this side, I also did notice that it's a very tight fit around it. So as you're tightening the bolts, once you get all the bolts lightly tightened, I would then tighten a star pattern so that you're evenly applying pressure so that it neatly gets around the lip of the light so that you're not either warping the aluminum or cracking the plastic. So now with all, 2, 4, 6 bolts in, again, I'm going to just go around in a star pattern so that I get even pressure against all of the bolts as it cinches up against the light. All right, everything is neatly cinched up, and when you're done, you can see that the spacing is perfectly even around both of the headlight brackets. You want, obviously, the top mount to come flush with the spacers. And then I don't know what the torque rating is for this. I'm not going to overdo it again. I'm using some Loctite to make sure that it's going to stay in place, but I'm only lightly hand tightening all of the bolts around this. But here we go, it looks fantastic. All right, so I've got it now mounted with that lowering kit. Since I already had the lowering kit on, I thought I would do this one first. So just wanted to show you what it looks like this. It does push it out a little, a couple of inches past, or 1.5 inches past the front of the battery box, but so did my other kit. And again, I liked that lower headlight look. I mean, the whole Ruckus looks goofy, honestly, but I think that this is a cool kind of goofy. So just to show it to you from more angles before I try mounting it directly to the battery box. Okay, and this is with the lowering kit removed and the mount directly against the battery box. I thought I'd like the lowered version more. I'm still a little bit torn, to be honest, but this solution looks super clean. I didn't tighten it down, but so it's not perfectly flush, but it will be once I do tighten it down. And I think the look just makes it look very, I don't know what the word is. It looks very OEM, actually. I think the lowered version, again, it looks a little cooler and weirder and goofier, but it looks a little more homemade, where this looks like something that, Honda would produce. I think I'm going to go with this. This solution does require you to drill a hole into the battery box. My battery box has a bunch of scratches on it, though, and it's the stock color, so if I want to replace that front piece, it's only, I don't know, 20 or 30 bucks, I think. But I think this is how I'm going to run it. It does expose my front tire quite a bit more, though, so I think if I am going to run it like this, I probably will install a fender, but that's an easy thing to do. I think I actually have a fender for this that I can throw on, but these lights do look mean, and this is also without any of the color functions hooked up yet. So anyway, let me know in the comments below what you think between the stock height or that lowered height. Obviously, it's easy enough for me to go back and forth. I think for now I'm going to install it the way that it should be and just drill that hole through it and get this wired up, but I'm glad that I got to take a look at both of them. I think actually I'm going to go back and look at this video and compare them side by side before I make that final decision. So I am going to run the stock height, although let me know again in the comments what you think between the stock height and that lowered look. So I do need to drill a hole through the battery box front part of the cover here. In the instructions that I saw from MNNTHBX online, they removed this part and there's a hole here that they use as a center point. I just made some alignment marks. I'm actually going to try to drill a smaller hole than they drilled. In their video, they actually drilled a hole big enough to pass this whole cable through, but I'm just going to depin this for two reasons. One is because I can then make a much smaller hole. The hole only needs to be the diameter of this accessory plug, which I don't know, is about 11, 12 millimeters. But I also want to run more heat shrink tubing along this line because it's this red and blue and black color. I'd like to have heat shrink tubing before it gets underneath the bracket here so that you're not seeing all of the colorfulness of this wiring harness. So it looks like depinning this is easy. I think it's just a matter of, I need to find another tool. I think there's just one prong that holds it up. Yeah, so it's pretty easy to pull out like that. So it's just hitting the little tab. Easy peasy. So that way, again, I can get some heat shrink tubing. Yeah, if I get that flat enough, I can get heat shrink tubing all the way back here so that I get rid of the colors. And then I can also make a slightly smaller hole going through the battery box. So I started a small pilot hole, and then I've got this, I don't even know where this drill bit is from. Looks like I used it for drywall last, but hopefully it'll be able to cut through this neatly, and the diameter of this will fit that little accessory plug. I told you drywall. Use a little bit of sandpaper to clean it up just so that it doesn't fray the edges of any of the wires. So these wires run into this channel here in the center of it and then through the hole that I created. But again, it has a couple of inches that it'll display the color of these wires, which don't match anything for me. So since I depinned it, I'm just going to slip a piece of heat shrink tubing over this. Kind of get it all the way down there, and then since I can't really get a flame in there, let's use a heat gun to activate it. And then it gets me almost there. I'm going to do one more on top of it for good measure. All right, that's plenty space enough to get into that channel without, again, having too many colors there. Preferably you'd have a single longer piece of heat shrink tubing. I just have these smaller pieces. That's why I used one on top of the other. And then I have the stock harness on here. So the two plugs here previously went directly into the bulbs. Now they go into the harnesses coming off the XK lights. And then the harnesses here plug into your normal harness that you have on your Ruckus. And then there's a left and a right pin here. I noted that this one is left so that I know the other one's right. And then you have this control box that you need to hook up. The 3 wires here are for the turn signals. Apparently the red isn't used, yellow is for the left turn signal, and black is for the right. These 2 plug into the left and the right. I believe the first one here closest to the turn signals is called 1, and this is 2. I believe 1 is left and 2 is right. If they're not correct, I'll just swap them. And then this one goes into power. There's another harness that plugs directly into the battery that has a power switch and another barrel type jack to plug into this to power the system. So I think it's just a matter of getting it all together now. I'm going to plug this directly into my turn signals. Again, this snaps into this, these plugs, and these plugs go into the plugs that I previously had powering the light harness. So let's get this all buttoned up. Okay, so all wired up, moment of truth. Power button. Nice. And again, there's supposedly a Bluetooth app that I download that I can change this to any color that I want. Let's see if the headlights and the turn signals work. Headlights definitely work. And turn signals. All right, that's supposed to be left, so I got them backwards. Let me just swap them, but that's pretty cool. So it turns off whatever color was on and turns it to an amber for the blink. Let me just flip those around real quick. Okay, one last thing that I wanted to cover about the wiring, because the instructions say to have this barrel plug that goes to, this is probably, actually I'm not sure what this is, maybe a fuse or the Bluetooth module, but then this power switch, and then the other leads go to the battery. So that's what I did initially. And then this switch either turns it on or off. The problem with that is that the turn signals only work if this is on, and same with the lights. And I'm not inclined to push this button every time I start the bike. So since this isn't a digital switch, it's a mechanical switch. So if you push it, it's on. So instead of wiring this to the battery, I have the black going to the negative terminal of the battery, but I have the red going to a lead that's hot when I turn on the key. So that way when I turn on the key, it provides power to the XK lights so that I have my running lights and also my turn signals. So I suggest that you do something similar, because otherwise it's going to be annoying to have to push this button every time that you start your bike or want your turn signals to work. Anyway, everybody's bike is going to be a little bit different. I think this is called like an icebox relay, and that's where I found a lead that works well for me. But just find a lead that is hot when the key is on and use that for power instead, so that the lights are on when you turn on the key, which makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, and then here's the app that you can use to control the colors of the headlights. There's obviously millions of different colors you can select. You can also break apart the 2 colors if you want to do one color and have the other be a different color. You can have this breathing effect. Actually, let me connect them back again. Let's see, so this breathing effect where that's actually going pretty fast, and you can make it go a lot slower. Again, I'm not sure how it's showing up on camera. There's a strobe effect where it's not breathing but just blinking on and off. And again, you can change the frequency. There's all these different themes if you want to just have it cycle through a whole bunch of different colors at different frequencies. There's this music thing where actually right now as I'm talking, the light is pulsating at the rate that I'm talking. So if there's music playing, it would go bright and dim at that rate. There's also this motion thing where based on the accelerometer in the phone is changing the blinking of the lights. Anyway, all of that's cute. Honestly, I'm going to usually just keep it on a solid color. I think this like red or pink looks pretty hot, but a really cool solution. And again, the machining of this bracket to hold the XKGLOW lights is amazing. So let me get it off the lift and do a walk around outside, and we'll call this project a wrap. All right, so a relatively easy install, and the fit and finish and quality of this product is absolutely amazing. I think it really transforms the look of the bike. It's also something that you don't see on too many Ruckuses. It's getting kind of difficult to stand out in the Ruckus crowd just because there are so many similarities, but I think this headlight setup is something that sets the bike apart a bit for me. And again, just how clean everything is with getting rid of the wiring, and the quality of this cage is just insane. So thank you to MNNTHBX for all of the support they've provided for me on the channel. Also, if you haven't seen the video that I posted last week about the Barber small bore vent, which MNNTHBX hosts, take a look at that video. It's an absolute mecca for mini moto. They do it every year, but it's something that you should really look to check out, and I'll definitely be there next year as well. So anyway, thank you everybody very much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos and keep on building.